Today, we talk with Deanna Ong about her personal leadership experience, the impact of technology on the future of work, and leadership qualities needed to thrive in the new normal. Deanna is Chief People Officer of Singapore's sovereign wealth fund, GIC. She has served in that role since 2017, overseeing human capital strategy, talent management, leadership, and organization development in GIC. Deanna has previously been responsible for human resource and organization and corporate governance since 2012. From 2009 to 2014, she headed the finance group responsible for financial management across GIC's portfolio. Prior to joining GIC in 1994, Deanna was a tax accountant with Arthur Andersen. She is currently a board member of Swiss Re and the International Forum of Sovereign Wealth Funds. Last but not least, 8 years ago, Deanna was nominated by the group president of GIC as a leader of the next generation to attend the STARS Switzerland Symposium in 2012. So Deanna is also a STARS alumni. Good afternoon to you, Deanna, and thank you for speaking in today's webinar.
Hello, David. It's really great to be here and wonderful to be connected to STARS in this forum.
We now have 30 minutes to discuss with Deanna. I will take the privilege to ask the first couple questions. In the meantime, if you have any questions for Deanna, please use the Q&A feature below to type in your question. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. And let's start with the elephant in the room, COVID-19, and what it means for post-pandemic leadership. Deanna, how has COVID-19 impacted your own work routine? And from the HR perspective for GIC as a global company, what have been the biggest changes caused by COVID-19?
Yeah, there's so much we can reflect from this topic, David. And to me, I think change can happen faster than we expect. But I also believe at the same time that the human spirit is stronger than we think because the COVID breakout has really disrupted economies, our livelihoods, social norms with all the lockdowns, with the safe distancing measures. And GIC, like all companies out there, has been forced to take very drastic measures with getting our people to work from home and set up different operating arrangements. And countries have now restricted travel restrictions that was in a way unimaginable if we think about the situation a year ago. So for many of us who are in corporate settings, the biggest change for us has been the work from home arrangements. And thankfully, most of us to function well remotely. Based on recent workplace surveys, we do expect this trend to continue into the future, even post-COVID. From GIC's perspective, the principles that we think about in this setting is really to make sure that we take care of the safety and wellness of our people. This is a key principle and it's first and foremost. We also look at local advisories in all the offices where we operate. We have 10 offices, including Singapore. So we have to be thinking about what the local governments are saying and how to keep our people safe in all these different jurisdictions. At the same time, we have to deliver on our fiduciary responsibilities to our client. So making sure that we perform well, that we are managing the reserves in a way that allows us to continue business and deliver good long-term real returns for our clients, the government of Singapore. And also taking stock of market practices out there to ensure that we stay in touch with our partners and we adopt best practices, whether it's in the investment areas or non-investment areas. I mean, we've done a lot at the organization level. I'm happy to share more about how we think about the enterprise. Communications is a big thing. Leadership, expectations in managing change, that is also another big area. Looking after the wellness of people, because we want individuals to be the best they can be wherever they are operating and to still be able to bring their best selves to work from home and also caring about the community. You asked from an HR perspective, what has been some of the things that we think and care about. I think one of the biggest trade-offs working from home, although there is a lot of flexibility, and that is something that we really value, is the impact on culture, on the team bonding. And I think it means that employees will need to be able to self-manage more. KPIs are going to be more outcome-driven, which is a good thing. But if we are in a situation where you need to be online all the time, just to show that you are visible and working, this could lead many of us to be working longer hours, at home versus in the office. And it also means that there is a blurring of lines between work and rest, so that affects work-life balance. And for new people who are joining the organization, for junior colleagues who benefit a lot more from guidance, from establishing social connections, the informal water cooler talks. We are missing these chance collisions that happen in the workplace that would enable working relationships to be strengthened. So I'll pause here and see if you've got any reactions, questions from what I've said so far.
I'd like to dig in a bit more into what you just said about working from home or working remotely as a key feature of doing business during the pandemic. What is your own experience of leading teams remotely, and what are the key factors that make those remote teams successful?
Yeah, I think this unusual conditions impose a lot more demands on leaders, on teams, and also on individuals. And the way we think about engaging people during a time like this is to be very personal and to still provide that kind of clarity on the goals that need to be delivered, to ensure the sustenance of high performance. But at the same time, it's showing a lot more care, enabling people to be equipped in order to still do the work well. So I think about it in different levels. For leaders, it is about exercising situational leadership a lot more. And this means being open to perspectives of others, to make right decisions as a group, because we're all trying to navigate the uncertain times, and having to look beyond well-trodden paths, where you have a lot of different scenarios, different possibilities. How do you identify the opportunities out there? How do you actually adapt to the changing world realities? And this requires a lot of courage from leaders to take risks, to innovate at the same time, and also to know that they don't have all the answers, but at the same time to be able to harness the knowledge from people in order to bring them along for this journey. And I think on the topic of showing empathy, it's really also about enabling people for resilience, because at periods of high stress, we need to show understanding, we need to show care, and still be encouraging people to be at their best when they're working, and knowing that there are also different priorities at home. And we talk a lot about wellness and energy, different dimensions of physical wellness. We care about mental wellness in order to focus on the kind of decisions and things that we have to do. We think about emotional wellness, and that's about establishing connections, interactions with people, making sure that there's no isolation. And it goes back to what is our purpose, right? Purpose in the workplace, ensuring that we know that we are able to deliver well on the mandate of the organization, but at the same time manage personal priorities and family priorities. For teams, I think it's also important at the individual level to understand why we need to respond to changing times, what is required from the individuals, and how it can be done. And I believe how it can be done is by leveraging strengths of people to make a difference. And if we are clear and aligned on the team priorities, and we're able to say, you know, what success looks like coming out from the other side, I think that is inspiring for people. So at the GIC level, we've had to talk about, okay, how we can operate in the new norm, and basically to value people as part of the journey. I think it's also important to build good working habits, and that means having honest conversations with people, so that we're able to solicit different views to make the best decisions as a team. It also means continuous learning, to be able to do after action reviews, reflections on what's going well, what's not going well, so that we can adapt and experiment along the way, because we're all trying to navigate these uncertain times together. Maintaining high trust relationships, showing respect for people, inclusiveness for different views. I mean, these are things that you do in good times, and these are things that you do even more in not so good times. We had also put out a playbook for our people, because we realized that during the period of lockdown and restricted mobility, people were working a lot more longer hours at home. And also having to deal with the stress, anxieties of caring for the families. So we went back to our playbook of A, B, C, D, E. A stands for being adaptable to new circumstances and embracing new ways of working. B is about balance, and that means setting boundaries for ourselves, work-life balance, when you would switch on and switch off, so that you ensure that you keep well and rest well. Connecting with others, that's important, and it has an impact on culture. So we in a work from home setting, you would use Zoom a lot more to stay in touch, but not just for meetings and discussions, but you know, come together for a Zoom chat, Zoom drink. We had bring your pets to work over Zoom. And that was really fun, because it breaks down barriers, and you know, it's at times like these that really you know, there are joys that come out, the silver linings of the situation, and switching on our videos so that when you see faces, I think it's also quite uplifting. So C is for connections. D is for delivering on outcomes. We have to ensure that the goals are clear, that we continue to provide good status updates, time management, and equipping ourselves with the right tools and technology to stay productive. And E stands for energy. It's something that I really believe in, and that allows each of us to stay well. The 4 dimensions of energy are physical energy, keeping up mental energy, emotional energy. The last one is spiritual energy, which we've actually positioned as having personal values to guide and anchor the way we work, the way we live, the way we connect with one another, and being authentic in the way we relate as a team. So I'll pause here and yeah, see if you've got any reactions from that.
Speaking of good times and bad times, what features of doing business in the COVID-19 era do you also expect to survive into the post-pandemic era, into better times?
Yeah, I think through good and bad times, we have to stay anchored on our values and our purpose. That guides the way we work, that guides the way we live. So having, you know, in GIC's context, our prime values remain a compass for how we make decisions, how we think, how we feel, how we act. You know, while this whole crisis has really heightened GIC's purpose, given that we preserve and we enhance Singapore's reserves. At the same time, it brings up a lot more new meaning, never like before, in the way, you know, we understand how the returns that we generate from the portfolio go, you know, and make a difference to the Singapore budget, especially on a rainy day like this, and it makes a difference for the community. So these are the kinds of things that don't waver: the values, the purpose, the ambitions that we have for us as an organization, and how we have to ensure that we stay resilient as an organization. So taking a long-term perspective in the way we manage the portfolio, taking a long-term perspective in the way we think about navigating, things like personal plans. And there are things that we do sometimes that are urgent but less important. It's good to always take a step back to think about what's important but less urgent, and to make time for it. And I think the care that we extend to others is always there. As leaders, it's about also growing talent, ensuring that we multiply performance, not just from ourselves, but through others around us, and making a difference in their career journeys as well. And I think life is a long-term journey, and in a time like this, it's made us reflect more, think about the things that we value in life. So I've learned to notice more plants around me, smell the roses, and basically engage a lot more with people. And we found that this engagement at a team level, at the organization level, has made a difference for us as an organization in I think staying in touch and reinforcing and strengthening team culture at every level.
You highlighted several times the importance of putting the well-being of people first. To deal with this challenge, to keep employees healthy, is GIC considering to add a chief health officer to the leadership team, or is that an additional dimension to your job, to your responsibility as chief people officer?
Yeah, it's certainly my role, and I must say it's the role of every people manager out there, because for all our people managers, how you actually deliver performance is through people, and it's important that we ensure that teams stay resilient. So it's really about making sure that individuals are equipped with the right skills, are equipped with the right tools, and that they have that time, and space to also innovate in order to do their work better. So we think about this in terms of building capabilities for the future and ensuring that our people are always well equipped.
Some people argue that the post-pandemic era demands a different kind of leadership. Would you agree with that?
I think the demands of leadership are always there, but I would say that in the pandemic, it probably places more emphasis on situational leadership, in being able to adapt to change, in being able to flex our capabilities, and that notion of taking courage, even though the journey forward the future is uncertain, but how do you make the best decisions in a climate that is uncertain, and how do you still operate knowing that there's always ambiguity, there's always that uncertainty, things are very volatile. So we talked about a VUCA world, and it's really brought this VUCA world to life. And at the same time, we have to move forward. So taking steps along the way and being able to harness the collective energy, collective skills and knowledge from our people, I think that is key. And knowing, things that we know, knowing things that we don't know, in order to figure out next steps, and always being able to connect with people. So I think one of the things that leaders need to do is really to also leverage strengths of others. And if we're able to see the strengths of each one, we can then best deploy them to areas where people can blossom, people can grow. And it's about harnessing diversity of our teams for better results. It's also about working with people that are different from ourselves, because if I work with people all like me, we end up with groupthink, and we may be missing certain things. I might be having blind spots. But if we pick complementary traits in teams, it expands the possibilities of what we can do better. And I think the experiences, the perspectives of the diversity of the people that we have really can make a difference to performance, makes a difference to creativity and innovation. Inclusion is very important at a time like this, and this means valuing voices of others and encouraging them to share their views, because we have to be risk aware, and we have to be able to put different ideas on our table to know what is the best way to move forward.
We have a follow-up question on the values and empowerment that you talked about before. The question comes from Jürgen Brücker. He's the Executive Vice President of the Schaffhausen Institute of Technology. Here's his question. Would you confirm that clear visions and values are becoming even more important in these times as people cling to them? Therefore, additional skills of leaders are needed to empower people. What are they?
Yeah, I mean, I am a true believer of that as well. I think at a time like this, where things change, the values would remain our anchor on how we make the decisions. So in the case of GIC, our prime values are prudence, respect for one another, how we do and act with integrity. We believe in merit, and that's about fairness to everybody in the organization. And the E stands for excellence. It's making sure that we are the best of ourselves, and as teams that we continue to live and work with excellence. And I think these are the evergreen sort of values that would not change in any situation. Empowerment, I think, is a very powerful thing, because we can't do everything ourselves. And in a world where the knowledge is all distributed, the skills are all distributed, I think empowering others also means trusting them to do more. And that is the way that you would unlock performance in the organization. That is how you would also think about building talent for the future. Because if you don't let go as a leader and empower the people, they are not going to be able to experience, get the exposure. But I think trust is essential. And when we think about trust in the organization, I'm reminded of a formula. I read this was first introduced by David Meister. I don't know if you heard about it, David, your namesake, but he said this formula in his book. It's called The Trusted Advisor. You need to trust someone to empower them, and how, as individuals, we earn that trust is through credibility, through the reliability, through the intimacy, right, of our working relationships. So it's on the numerator, you have credibility, reliability, and intimacy, divided by self-orientation. So if we are credible, we know our work well, we hold ourselves accountable, in addressing problems as they arise, we adopt a growth mindset. That's how we build credibility with our peers, our bosses. If we're reliable, it means taking actions, staying with our commitments, keeping our promises, doing what we say we will do. That builds trust as well. Intimacy is a function of the relationships that we build. It's about whether we entrust others around us, having that openness and transparency in relationships to be able to have great conversations, share what's going well and what's not going well. And then divided by self-orientation. That is the only denominator in the equation. And it's there because, if a person is self-interested and they're only thinking about their own good, then, that's too self-serving and it doesn't build trust. So I always think about this formula in how I can build trust with others around me, and that will naturally lead to empowerment, because we are about multiplying performance through others. So I want to trust and at the same time be worthy of the trust, and I think that is a very powerful part of our GIC culture, and also a very powerful aspect of long-term performance.
Across your whole career, what have been the 3 most important lessons learned from your personal leadership experience?
Yeah, I would say one is about care for others, and that is about how I can grow others and grow future leaders in order to live a better legacy for the organization and for the community. I think where it is more about others, about the future than about myself, it is something that's very liberating. And it's about aligning my own purpose also with the purpose of the organization. So that is a big takeaway for me. And I think as leaders, as people, when we think about how we make decisions, we have to think with our head, we have to think with our heart. We also have to think with our gut sometimes. So the head represents the logical part. The heart represents, the emotional intelligence, how you influence others to come along. You can't be a leader if you don't have followers. So it's about connections. And the gut is about courage. Do you have that courage to make tough decisions? Do you have that courage to recognize the gaps and go about fixing it in order to make things better? So that's something that I think is very real as well. And I think as a long-term thinker, we have to also learn to let go. So when COVID struck, someone shared this quote with me. It was about, it's a quote by Corrie ten Boom. And it goes, worry does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow, it empties today of its strength, right? So we have to, put our best foot forward, learn to let go, not to worry too much. You plan and you prepare ahead. You prepare for the future. You prepare for setbacks and failures, but you have to be willing to go on adventures. You have to embrace change. You have to use your judgment to anticipate and act. And this requires courage, but at the same time, change can be refreshing. Change liberates us to do new things. So it's to keep our spirits up and basically think about staying anchored to our values so that we can deal with what's ahead, recommit to our goals, and really support others to make a difference to the communities.
With that wonderful closing statement, I would like to thank you very much, Deanna, for sharing your insights with us. Thank you, Deanna.
Thank you, David. It's been a pleasure and really so good to see you over the camera. Thank you for moderating the session.